Game of Survivor, there are many questions. Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? And who has the best story? That's the mission of the Survivor Storytellers. It's what they do.
That is indeed what we do. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Survivor Storytellers Season 44 Merge Breakdown.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting one. Prior to us officially starting the recording, I think we both agreed we're just gonna have a quick couple minute rant fest before we actually kind of break down the story aspect of what the hell is going on this season.
First of all, Casey, welcome on. Happy to have you back. Unfortunately, Laser Dude wasn't able to join us. Hopefully he'll be able to join us for our finale coverage.
Yeah. Do you want to start first on this?
I literally think this season has broken me. I used to, for a while, I have been kind of coasting on, watching the show with my grandparents and really enjoying it that way. But now it literally, this shit's so complicated that I can barely follow it. Forget about my grandparents following it. My grandpa's making a noble attempt to keep up with it. My grandma, at this point, literally just watches the challenges. She's done trying to follow anything else. So even from my perspective, as a family who has literally watched this show for multiple decades, every fucking Wednesday/Thursday night, it's getting to the point where it's not fun anymore. And I just and we are Survivor Storytellers, Casey. And so I think that the fact is, season 44, it's got, people are saying oh, Carolyn and Jam Jam, iconic characters. I'm no, not really, honestly. I like both of them. I do. They're fun characters. They're good characters. I would not call them in the elite, all-time best Survivor characters. I wouldn't. Maybe Carolyn, I don't know. An argument could be made. Maybe Jam Jam, I wouldn't say so. Everyone else, literally everyone else in this whole cast, is playing second fiddle to those two.
Yeah.
And so it's not only am I very frustrated with just the insanity that has been the way that production has been running this game, which I think is just mind-numbing. In the fact that Probst is super stoked on it is even more frustrating. But even before this last episode, man, I've just been frustrated. Even coming into the merge, earn the merge, whatever the fuck that was, it wasn't earn the merge because they didn't earn the merge because you just broke them off into two different teams yet again. But whatever that was, the episode that the tribes came together for the first time and then split off and had to compete, the first out of 2 times in a row, I was just I was so underwhelmed with the editing of that episode because it was all kind of told through Josh's perspective and then, Carolyn, Yam Yam, Carson. And it literally feels all, the orange tribe, the green tribe, outside of hey, Franny and Matt have a showmance. Isn't that cute? I am so frustrated with the storytelling of this season, even just outside of the twists. But the twists just make it all the worse. And the twists make me, if I wasn't frustrated with the storytelling, I'd at least be okay, at least I can look at the elements of the game. But the twist just fucks with the game entirely. So, I'm sorry, Casey. I think I went on a little longer than 3 minutes, but
it's all good. I mean, you're pretty much. Also, I apologize if anyone here, for some reason, it's 9:00 at night. My neighbor decided to start doing construction outside.
Oh my God.
Which is very weird. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I have a lot of the same criticisms as you. It's actually funny. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe, there was this woman who was at my work, and I don't even know how the topic of Survivor came up, but like that's not something I would bring up to a customer. But it came up, and we had like a quick chit chat about it. And she actually said that she used to watch the show with her parents. This woman's got to be in like her 30s, so I don't think she lives with her parents because I'm fairly certain she's married. But anyway, she said that they all stopped watching it a little while ago because the show got way too confusing, and especially for her parents, they can't keep up. They can't make heads or tails, and it is crazy. You know, in the second or third episode, yeah, I think it was the second episode, there were already a total of 9 to 10 twists and advantages at play in 2 episodes. That's crazy. And the thing is there was, and I'm not necessarily trying to call CBS out, I'm not trying to necessarily say it is an issue of race, but these extreme changes have been since the 50% POC thing got activated in their show and other shows. And it's like they don't have faith in their cast anymore. And I will say Carolyn is actually working herself up to be a very big character for me. You know, she'll have to play maybe another season or so to really hit like the top 10, but I actually love Carolyn. But yeah, there's just it's the twists and advantages. And the storytelling itself is unbalanced, and the game is becoming very unbalanced. But like I said, most of my stuff just mimics what you were saying anyway. So let's get into the storytelling aspect of it. Let's look at some of these characters, because there are some people I couldn't even tell you about. Especially when it comes to the pre-merge, which was men who were medevaced and then just a bunch of women. And at this point in time,
once again, another Asian female who got twist screwed, Casey. Once a fucking again.
I mean, that's the crazy thing. It's like I felt bad for her, and I felt bad for a number of the other people, but I couldn't. Bruce wasn't in the game long enough for us to really know anything, but couldn't tell you anything about Bruce, couldn't tell you anything about Maddie, couldn't really tell you anything about Helen. Claire, I could tell you she didn't play in challenges. Sarah, I couldn't really tell you much about. Matt, I did like his. Let's just take a brief moment to talk about his medevac. What were your thoughts on it?
My thoughts on Matt's medevac were I was very frustrated by it because I feel like I would technically call it a quit. I know that's shitty to do because like I really do feel for the guy. He was obviously in a ton of pain, but the doctors did not say that they had to pull him.
You're right.
So,
it was actually a quit.
So I'm frustrated by the fact that we build him up so much, and then we literally don't even see the actual moment where he decides to leave the game. That to me is a big storytelling flaw. Like we literally cut away, and to me it's like I feel like they did that just basically to save face if they want to bring him back on the whole like we don't bring quitters back thing. You know what I mean?
Maybe. I mean, maybe that's it. I think also like something tells me he did not quit right then and there. Something almost makes me think that maybe he went back to camp and it was just the more effective way to tell the story. I was initially a little disappointed that's the way it went down.
I mean, if that's like, I have a big gripe with just not showing the Orange Tribe reacting to him leaving at all. Like literally none of those people have even commented on that. And I think that like even outside of him getting the last word, I think that is the biggest storytelling flaw of his character.
I think that's the only issue that I really have to it is that we didn't really get to see anyone react to it. And I think it would have potentially been a good partial opener to the next episode. When we got to the Mergatory episode, but also I guess at the same time, it's like the round got cut short. So therefore, like how would you really format the episode? You know, given that his boot was a quit technically.
Right. I mean, I get that we needed to show Jam and Carolyn. Like we needed to show that.
And Josh too.
I just think we also should have, I don't know. I think maybe the episode should have ended with the teams coming together or something. As it stood now, my big problem with this season, and I will just to kind of like jump into like the individual character edits. Like I said, I just like from episode like 2, Casey, from episode 2, I basically had Jam Jam and Carolyn pegged as a group that was going to likely make it all the way to the end and get the final tribal council together.
I think I did say that I thought Jam Jam would make it far, but Carolyn was going to be a big character that was an early boot.
Well, that clearly didn't happen.
Well, yeah, of course not. But I will say, though, both characters have not gone what I thought they would. And I'm more than pleasantly surprised with Carolyn's story. I do think, here is my overall prediction, if I'm reading the edit correctly. 4 of the final 5 is going to be Carson, Jam Jam, Carolyn, and Jamie. I think they're setting up Jamie as a subtle winner.
Oh, shit. Okay. We definitely have... I really hope Jamie is like... She is by far my favorite character in this cast. I'm just going to say that right now. The reason why is because Carolyn is great. Carolyn's wonderful. They have over-edited the fuck out of Carolyn to the point where it's kind of like that coach thing where it's looped back around to like, for example, last episode, literally all we heard from her was just like, oh, I really don't want Jam Jam to go. And I'm like, yeah, Carolyn, we know you two are tight. Like, I feel like they could have just like given her like a more under the radar episode last episode. I mean, it was under the radar compared to how she's been edited.
Yeah.
But
agree.
I also, with Carolyn, I very much worry that it's going to be a storytelling situation where I frankly think she's a lock for the finals, for Final Tribal. But I also think she's a lock to be not a winner. And not because she's not playing a good game. And that's the frustrating thing. I just think there's been way too many moments with her struggling about communication. And I feel it. And I empathize. Thank you, Jesus. Like, I really relate to the social anxiety, especially like, you know, like the scene at the merge and obviously the Danny and Brandon broing down scene, which was glorious. I mean, that scene, I know you're not all too familiar with the Mario Lanza funny 115, but like that scene feels like it's born for the funny 115. It's just like, it's such a great like editing, like the editors actually having fun with it. That was by far the best, Ship Wheel Island segment we've ever had. And guess what, producers? It was all because of the cast interactions and nothing to do with the actual like game mechanics.
That's the thing. They really need to start putting more of that into the story because those are crucial. And it's funny. I think it was Lauren posted on Twitter about how they are leaving a lot out of the story. She said, you guys like miss she said, don't get me wrong, Survivor's still my favorite show. And I had an amazing experience in the game, but like you're missing a lot of really like key interactions and stuff like that. And that's the thing. We need to see more of that. Now,
Lauren and Brandon, for example, we know from context clues, they've basically been tight the whole time. But last episode was pretty much the first time that those two were even really seen in the story working together, even though I'm sure they've been super tight since day one.
Well, see, okay, so if we really look at the people that are left, so it's Brandon, Carolyn, Carson, Danny, Franny, Heidi, Jamie, Kane, Lauren, and Yam Yam, or Jam Jam, however the hell you say his name, I feel like 6 of the 10 of them that are left have kind of been very under the radar. They and they might not be playing the game that way, but that's how the edit's portraying them. I couldn't really tell you much about Heidi. I couldn't really tell you too much about Kane, except he's a super nerd. Couldn't tell you much
that's
about
literally, I like Kane. I feel like I would get along with him, but it's literally like every time we see him, it's like Dungeons and Dragons. It's very one note.
and that's the thing. It's like a lot of these people are not really being developed. So like, I don't really have many notes on them. The people that I do have notes on are like, even if we step back a little bit, Josh, I think Josh, from a storytelling perspective, actually probably has one of the best edits.
Which is weird to think about considering like he got nothing in the first few episodes.
he didn't really get anything the first few episodes, but his final 3 episodes before he got booted, we knew who he was. We knew what his perception of his game was. We knew what the reality of the game was. We saw him try and maneuver his way to stay, and we saw his downfall. That's everything we need to know about a character. I think he got a great edit.
I see what you're saying. I totally see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, and it's a rarity sometimes, even in the better seasons, that you get that complete of a character. And we even got his backstory. You know, they like to give everyone, and he does actually have a pretty tragic backstory, but you know, we got his sappy backstory.
That is one thing that I will give the editors credit for this season. One of the few things is that I feel like they're not hammering in the tragic backstories nearly as much as they were the past couple seasons.
Yeah, it was getting to be overkill.
Mm-hmm.
Experiencing it the first time was fine in season 41, but then in 42 and 43 is a little bit of a different story. But of the 4 seasons since Survivor's come back on, 42 still is probably the best.
Oh, I far and away, I think. Yeah, because 42, like, literally by this point in the game, we knew everyone. We knew all the players' games. We knew, that season that is honestly one of the best edited seasons. I still stand by that.
Yeah.
I just, as far as like making sure that every single person had something to do within the context of the story being told.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like to call them like townspeople, the people who are like just kind of there existing, you know, the Kanes and Laurens of the world.
Yeah.
And this season has a lot of them, man. And last season kind of did too, honestly, to a certain extent.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I mean, I understand. Like, I obviously edit. I do my own thing. So, like, I understand this stuff, not only because I went to school, but I've done something similar. Just I get it from a different perspective where, like, certain characters, certain players, they are going to get under edited compared to other people because they're just not that prevalent to the story. And I get it. But, like, there should at least be enough content to give everyone a fair edit for what their position in the game was. You know, there's hundreds upon hundreds of hours just for a single episode of the show. You're really telling me that someone like Claire or Helen or Sarah couldn't have gotten a better edit? I guess actually also thinking about it, Maddie in the beginning, she got like, and we already kind of talked about her, but you know, for her position in the game, she got a fair enough edit. She overplayed.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we also like look at like Matt and Franny, who I just think are adorable. I think they're very cute. And I love
I was so like, don't get me wrong, I was straight up pissed for Matt's position last week. Casey, I was like physically angry that he was put into that position. I thought it was so shitty. But that being said, I was getting to the point myself where I would be rolling my eyes pretty hardcore every time they were on screen together. I was just like, okay, I get it.
I mean, I didn't start to feel that way till probably this past episode when they had that weird, like, Franny died montage and that was reflecting on their life together.
Right.
You know, like, but it was also like I feel like they were kind of actually being almost comical because of how ridiculously infatuated Matt and Franny are together on the show. Which I actually heard that they're still together to this day.
They are, yeah.
Good on them.
When Matt was doing his exit interviews, Franny was hanging out with him.
That's awesome. Like, yeah. I love that. They actually seem like they mesh very well together.
Totally.
I guess at the end of the day, if that was all their story was, then good on them.
I did really appreciate Matt as a narrator, not necessarily as a character, because as a character he was fine, but I think he was a really solid narrator. He had kind of like a unique like cadence to him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I agree with that, but it's also really funny that they were a little oblivious, or they were choosing to be naive to the fact that, like, we need to hide our relationship. We need to hide our relationship. It's like, dude, Matt and Franny. Everyone knows.
Right.
They're very obvious.
But that's kind of why it was starting to get annoying for me, just because like they were just very oblivious to that.
Yeah.
But with Franny, I do think that Franny, like, I could either see her going out the next round or two, or making a deep run.
So, what would you possibly think? This is the potential fifth in the final five that I proposed. What would you potentially think about a Franny comparison to like to Natalie and Natalie and
Jeremy?
Jeremy.
That was going to be my first comparison, actually. Like, I mean, it's possible, right?
I think
that was the start of Natalie's story in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it's like the removal of not only that weight, but that distraction, that chip on your shoulder, the removal of that might actually give her enough to go forward. And we did see she won an individual immunity challenge.
Oh, she beasted the hell out of that challenge too. Oh my God.
Yeah. So like I could potentially see that. Like I think realistically of the final five that I proposed, so it was Franny, Jamie, Carson, Yam, Jam, and Carolyn. I think we're realistically looking at a Jamie, Carson, Franny win.
Okay.
Franny, for what I just said, it's the removal of her +1. Carson, because as we all know, Jeff actually loves the super fan, and to see what Carson went through and the preparation he went through probably like boost Jeff's ego.
I'm so fucking over Carson, and I know you are too.
I've been over him.
I mean, like, I honestly, like, the fact that Jeff is actually like, the fact that he's actually like excited about like, hey, people know our fucking challenges so much they can literally 3D print. That should not be something that you're proud of, Jeff.
Yeah.
If you want to produce a good TV product, that was really one of my least favorite moments in the whole season, honestly, the whole 3D printed puzzle thing.
Well, the thing is we had this exact same thing back in 41.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, I'm really bad with the names right now, but we saw one of the players literally finish a puzzle in 5 seconds.
Right. And I don't remember who it was either, but I remember that happening.
She was, oh my God, she was one of the, what is her name? I can specifically envision her face. I know exactly who she is. I just can't remember her name right now, but like, you shouldn't be able to do that. She's the one that wore the rainbow underwear the whole season.
Evie?
Was it? No, I don't think it was Evie. Oh my God. Normally I'm not this bad with the fucking names.
I don't remember. That cast was just very underwhelming, so I don't really blame you.
It was Evie. Oh,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Which we share the same birthday. We're almost the same age. It's funny. Anyway, but yeah, it's just like you shouldn't be able to do that. But the thing is that like from everything that I'm reading in the edit, I'm really thinking we're getting a Carson, Franny, or Jamie win. Jamie has these really subtle edits. She never dominates the edit, which normally winners do dominate the edit and they go through cooldown periods. She goes through like mid to cool down. And even in this past episode, she had a really good confessional. She had one really good confessional, and then the rest of her screen time throughout the episode was them just focusing on these shots of her reacting to things.
I noticed that. Yeah.
It's a subtle edit, know, and so that's why I really do think, and I thought Jamie's going to probably be the winner since like episode 2 or 3.
I would love that. I'm not as confident in it as you are, just because I think they've been giving her a little bit more of a dodo edit just because of the fake idol. It ultimately comes down to how the fake idol gets edited, right? That to me is the biggest sticking point against her, is how much the edit has been clowning on that. And also, like, there's been times where she said like she's had the biggest the most knowledge in the game, which might very well be true. But I feel like the edit was kind of framing that in an ironic sense. So I'm not sure, but I will say that, like I said, Carolyn is by far the biggest character, but she is probably my favorite character just because she isn't overwhelming the screen time the same way that Carolyn is. And I think she's just like a very, very authentic person.
Yeah.
And authentic in she's kind of putting everything out there with her personality. She knows some of it is probably pretty cringe, but she doesn't really care. I love that about her. And honestly, with Carolyn, frankly, Carolyn is genuine, yes. But with Carolyn, I definitely think there's a little bit of I don't even want to say play to the cameras because I don't think that's it. I just think it's the cameras. I don't think she's playing to the cameras, but I do think they affect how she's coming across, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
Especially considering I keep thinking about the cold open we got with the producers breaking the fourth wall with her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just I think she's being her authentic self. I just think that the cameras might kind of amplify it a little bit, if that makes sense.
I mean, that's totally fair. I don't think that about her. But then again, I don't know if that's true. I mean, neither of us know if that's true, but I just don't think that. I just think that she just is that way. Yeah, I don't know. I love Carolyn. Carolyn is by far my favorite. Carson's by far my least favorite, and everyone else is in the middle. I'd honestly be pretty much happy if anyone won the game but Carson. And I recognize I have bias in this because I fucking hate his archetype. Unless you're Christian Hubicki, I don't like you.
Oh God.
I don't like the fan archetype. Unless you're Christian or bloody. So shout out to bloody. But no, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of where my thoughts are at. I mean, I don't think I have a ton left to say about everyone else. I think though, just to kind of recap the final five for myself, because like I said, we're looking at the edit. We're the storytellers. I think two possible scenarios is going to happen for Carolyn. Either one, she'll be the fallen angel of the season, or two, she'll be a Nora and nobody will take it seriously, despite us seeing that Carolyn actually has an amazing perception. She is smart and she's capable. I think
so. What I am worried about, because I honestly do not agree with your winner pick. My winner pick is Jam Jam, and I am worried about people grouping him and Carolyn together, but them voting for him, because even though for me, I don't even think the show has really been trying to hide the fact that he's played a sloppier game than she has. But I also think that they've been illustrating that he is more skilled at getting people to want to work with him.
Which is fair, but see, that's the thing. My interpretation of that edit is that is exactly why he'll probably be a 0 vote finalist.
Okay.
Because we have seen he's been on the chopping block. He does not have the social capital like he did those first 2 episodes.
Right.
So I think that's what they're setting him up to be. I think at least my interpretation of the edit is that I think Carolyn and Jam Jam, I think their arcs are spelled out clear enough for me that's I think their end game.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like I said, I do think if they do ultimately end up making the final 2 together, which at this point I think is likely, just because I tend to look at my predictions for who's making the final tribal council as far as who has the strongest ties to each other, and from literally episode 1, episode 2, it's been clear those two are we reinforce it over and over again how tied they are to each other.
Yeah, I mean, we also they painted a pretty clear picture that Carson is good with them too. I mean, Carson betrayed what in a lot of ways would have been the more sensible alliance to go with. What was it? Episode 2. But
well, yeah, but that's just because Helen got twist fucked because of the no vote thing.
Yeah, I mean, but could have potentially tied the vote because it was what at that point.
Yeah, but at that point, I don't blame Carson for not wanting to go that route, though.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's I blame the producers for putting in this no vote bullshit. But
yeah, just too many moving pieces. But it's crazy. We're at the 30-minute mark, and honestly, I actually feel like I've more or less said everything about the story. That
what about Danny, really quick? Because I think he's the only one. It's so frustrating because, like, last episode, everyone I've talked to feels the exact same way. Where it's like the first 5-10 minutes of the episode, where Matt is starting to put the pieces together about Danny's lie and setting up his blindside. We're like, yes. Finally, this is some good shit right here. This is some good character building. It's some good game progression. And then they just fuck it. It's almost as if the producers are literally going out of their way to say long-term story does not matter as much as our bullshit twists.
Well, so there's a couple things to that. One, yeah. So I apologize for those who are listening. Yeah, Danny, I had some notes on Danny, not much. But as for that, I wonder if the producers were shooting themselves after fucking thinking, wow, we had such good content.
Yeah.
And we subbed it out for this. But then again, Jeff is in love with the twists and advantages. So maybe he's just like, this is better anyway. It creates unpredictability in the game, which unpredictability just means that you can't play the game because there's nothing to maneuver around.
Right.
But for Danny, I would have said the first couple episodes that Danny was going to be a major player, but then he turned invisible.
Yeah, that's my problem. That's my frustration with him. I kind of vented a little bit to you guys in our Storytellers chat during the merge episode. I was like, dude, Danny could have been a possible, I never thought he was actually a winner contender, but they could have at least tried to edit him like one. He certainly is playing the game that would warrant it. I don't understand with this editing.
Yeah, Danny definitely seems to be a strong player. Someone who probably mid-merge would be too strong that they would end up voting him out. That was the story that I was almost getting from him maybe in the beginning. But yeah, that's the thing. He went totally invisible for a couple episodes. That I kind of forgot about him. He was actually among one of my favorites in the very beginning. But yeah, that I don't know what to make of him because we had one edit and then we had the next edit was nothing.
Yeah.
So I once again can't really tell you much about Danny.
Heidi is really not getting anything. I agree. And honestly, I think she made one of the most frustrating game moves in the post-pandemic era of the season last episode.
Yeah. I feel like that was pressure from the players though. And
I get that. I don't know. It's pressure from the players. And also, again, it's production bullshit that shouldn't have even been thrown in there to begin with.
So, I mean, that's the thing with Heidi's character. The only things that we've gotten that characterize Heidi is that she has been, correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty much two of her more prominent edits have been her in some sense involved around some sort of twist and advantage.
Yeah, I would say yes. Also, she was kind of the swing vote between voting out Claire and voting out one of Matt and Franny, but at the same time, that pretty much turned out to be a unanimous vote. So,
well, wasn't that also weren't they factoring in potential idols?
You're right. They were factoring in Matt's fake idol, which, by the way, I'm wondering if Franny is going to get out of Matt's bag now and try and leverage.
I don't think you can do that.
Can you not really?
I think it has to be transferred to you. You can't.
That's interesting. Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
Because he was voted out of the game, so
I mean, not that it would matter anyways, because it's a fake. But
yeah, but no, I'm 99% sure that because he was booted from the game, he was not eligible to do it.
I think it's so fucking stupid that they didn't even allow him to get his bag. That's my main.
If I was him, I wouldn't have necessarily thought to brought my bag if I ever.
No, I know. That's why I think it was fucking dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have at least given him the opportunity to do a shot in the dark. It's like they literally invented shot in the dark for situations like that.
Yeah, but the issue is that like it's just like an immunity idol. You have to have it on you to play it. I was at first annoyed about that, but then I saw someone say that on one of my Survivor groups on Facebook, and I was like, okay, actually, yeah, it is a form of advantage, and so you have to have the advantage to play it. But really quick, do we have any other things to say about the story before we conclude this?
Dude, like I said, ultimately, Casey, I think the problem is the editors, tropes, like it really seems like they are prioritizing twists, advantages, and unpredictability over actual story. And frankly, I don't think that's going to be better. And if my grandparents continue to just not be engaged with it, then I'm not going to be engaged with it either. Like, I am closer to disengaging with Survivor than I ever thought I would be at this point.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because like at 42, 42 really does feel like an enigma. Because, and I think one of the reasons why is because that season, like, it technically had idols, but there wasn't a lot of actual maneuvering around with the advantages. Like, Omar found the knowledge is power advantage, but it never even got edited into the show because it didn't matter. It's like, and that's like I think out of the 4 seasons we've gotten so far, that season just, to me, sticks out like a sore thumb in a good way for being a season that actually gave a shit about character development.
Yeah. It's just frustrating. I will end my part on 2 notes. One, Lauren, I feel like her whole story has literally just been everyone's scared of her because of her advantage and they want to flush it or get her out or whatever. And then have you actually been, and I haven't, but I heard about it. Have you been listening to Jeff's podcast?
I don't think I'd have the patience.
Jeff has said, yeah, I've been hearing a lot about the podcast, but the highlight was that I believe it was his 2nd episode. He said there is no winner edit.
Which, with the winner edit itself, first of all, bullshit. I mean, I just straight up don't believe that.
It doesn't make any sense. There has to be a winner edit so you understand who the winner is and why.
But I just think right now, and this is like the last note that I have, I feel like we're really kind of caught in, I mean, the fact that you and I disagree about who we ultimately think the winner is going to be is a good sign ultimately. But for me, I would be surprised if it's not one of the 2 that I am predicting. Like, I would be surprised.
So to reiterate, your winner picks based on the
would be Jam Jam or Carolyn.
For me, I think it's the opposite of my final 5. I think it's going to be Carson, Franny, or Jamie. More likely Jamie or Carson. Jamie's up as number 1 as me.
I think we can both agree that that final 5 does feel likely, because frankly, those 5 people feel like the only people who actually have long-term arcs. Yeah. And like the next few weeks is just going to be the massacre of the townspeople.
Yeah, should be at least interesting enough. I still can't see a scenario that I necessarily stop watching Survivor, but I mean, if it does continue on this path for another couple of years,
I stopped watching Big Brother.
Well, Big Brother's a whole other thing, but anyway. That's my thing. That's my spiel. That's my read of the edit. And it's all over the place. I think this podcast was kind of all over the place too. But that's my read.
Okay. That's okay, because it's only 40 minutes long. That's fine.
Yeah. But all right. Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining us. And Laser Dude, like I said, hopefully should be back with us as we do our season wrap up after the season finishes airing. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.